Our subconscious or our female side is generally related to the right side of the brain, which instead of that male side, which is linear, language, analytic, problem solving, it's more fluid. It's the space between things. It's the relationships. It's the connections, that side of us. That when this relapse happened to me, it was the left side of my body that went numb. And in our
Mm,
brain, the right side at our brainstem switches and
right.
energetically becomes the left side of our body. So as this relapse happened, it was my left side that went completely numb. And to me, I thought right there, okay, it's mirroring something again in me, which is saying,
welcome to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast. I'm your host, Tenya Eickenberg, and this is a space where transformation begins. Here, we dive deep into energy healing, self-care, and the power of mindset to help you break free from old patterns and design a life that feels aligned, vibrant, and authentically you. True metamorphosis isn't just about change. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. Now, let's get into this week's conversation.
Welcome back to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast. And today I have with me Dayna Wylder. Dayna, welcome.
thank you so much for having me. I love having these conversations and hopefully bringing inspiration and hope to people that need to hear it.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast is so that other people who are going through similar things can hear that those who have done the work, that there is light on the other side. And your story wound up being quite dark for quite a while, didn't it?
It did. And, it's one of these things I always like to give metaphors because I do hypnotherapy. So we talk to the subconscious in metaphor. But even the imagery of, I think of us as a tree. And if we want our branches to grow high into the sun and into enlightenment or into the heights, we have to grow a root system that matches it. And growing roots is very uncomfortable. It's lonely. It's dark. You break rock. It's drought. It's there has to be sometimes a duality between things because in the darkest moments, as long as we can figure out a way to make meaning of that and to find gratitude even in our suffering, then it really brings us to a place back from duality into centeredness, where no matter what happens to us, good or bad, we maintain our internal bliss.
Hmm.
Because that happiness, that purpose, the passion, it's an inside job. And it really doesn't matter anymore what the circumstances of our life is, it's how we frame them. And
Right.
so, yes, in the darkest parts of my journey, and I mean, at the moment, in the moment going through it, I'm not sure in all those moments I thought there's meaning. I really just felt sorry for myself through a lot of it. But as you work through it, you start to see that you almost in needing that to happen to you in your life. It was a catalyst. It was something that pushed you into a better place. Like when one door closes, another one opens. And sometimes we need those things. And hopefully for everybody, it's you don't need such a loud signal as mine, right?
Right.
Hopefully not everybody ends up crawling on the floor with MS and not disconnected. Hopefully people listening to this maybe can see how if they can start responding to these messages, both from their body and from the universe, as we stay in alignment with our path, maybe we don't need to fall so far from grace in order to hear the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It, it would be great if we got to the point in society, in humanity, where we were teaching our kids to listen to their bodies, right? But if we're not taught how to do that, our kids can't know, right? And so you've through your story, you were able to quiet yourself enough to really start listening to your body and what your body needed in order to heal. Can you tell us a little bit about that part of your story?
Yeah, so I mean, I had, when I first got diagnosed, which was 17 years ago, I think I knew right away from the beginning I wasn't going to do the conventional path. So I always kind of pushed against the narrative that the doctors told me and against the biochemistry pharma model. So I knew there was going to be some level of emotion and trauma work that I was going to need to do. And I did meditate back then. And that was the first thing I went to. But I think I meditated still, and even my yoga practice was very much doing. I was still trying to overcome. I was still trying to check off all the things and say to myself, this level of perfection, well, did I eat organics? And did I do yoga today? And did I do my meditation? I wasn't really being in the moment. I was still just accomplishing something, overcoming something, running from something. But this major relapse I had 5 years ago, it really made me look differently at the MS and at my response to what was going on, because it took me right out. I couldn't see, I couldn't hold a pen, a glass, bathe myself, walk. I really was left just by myself. And as much as my family was beautiful and they would, set me up with a lot of drinks because I would spill them throughout the day, and they would try to open Tupperware for me so I could try to feed myself, they still went to work and to their sports and to school. Their life still went on and I was alone. And
Right.
this is the first time that meditation became for me not something I did, but necessity, because there was nothing else I could do. So I was alone just with my thoughts, and I started to realize that maybe I wasn't as optimistic and as positive as I thought I had always been, because once I was stuck with my own company for so long, hours on end, weeks on end, years on end, I really had to start looking at the quality of my thoughts and the quality of my emotions, and then just sit and be present with them. And when you sit with yourself for that long, you do start to uncover a lot of things about yourself, and you start to be okay with just being not okay. I mean, and I don't
Right.
want to say we're not okay, because we are perfect and we're not broken, because
Right.
our
We are,
soul.
yeah, we're perfect just the way we are. Like that is, I have such a, I don't want to say love-hate relationship with that word, but we are perfect. And I always question who gets to determine what perfect is,
Well, it really
right?
just
We
is
do.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. But everybody else is saying, well, I'm so sorry I did that. I'm not perfect. And it's like, well, why are you saying you're not so perfect? Right? It's going off on a tangent, but I think you're right. We are all perfect just the way we are, because this is how we were designed. This is how we designed ourselves.
And that's why I think sitting in silence, and this is why meditation for me is so foundational. I do a lot of other modalities and energy work, but meditation really is transformative, because once we sit with just being with ourselves, we start to realize those things of self-judgment, self-worth, criticism, and not just judgment to ourselves, to other people. And we have to really get okay with the discomfort of our life. And I
Mhm.
think that it even taught me a lesson too. Like, I do also a neuro-linguistic programming and parts therapy. And in parts, we look at it as at times in our life when we couldn't handle the trauma that happened to us. Part of us had to break off and form these personalities that at the time were very protective for us, but over time they limit us in other ways as we become adults and we have more resources available. And I think I started to see my MS in an entirely different light in this way. Because when I was young and I had grown up with addiction in my family, and it was neglectful at times, you then have to manage the chaos. So even though you're the child, you're managing all of what's going on around you. So the manager part of me learned that as long as I maintained this illusion of control, that I felt safer. And then
Mhm.
I went into an abusive marriage, because whatever we don't figure out the first time energetically, we get it given to us again to try again to solve it. So I go into an abusive marriage for, a lot of years of my life. And again, I'm managing the chaos. It's not my needs. It's not what my body says. It's not what I want. It's about managing this other person. And I think that even during my MS, when I left that marriage, it started to subside a little bit. But once it got quiet enough where I didn't have a problem to solve anymore because my life was going okay, all of a sudden the MS reared its head again, full force, worse than before. And I had to come back to the drawing board and be like, why is this coming back again now? I'm not really stressed. It's not that terrible in my life anymore. And I thought, oh, that's because that manager part of me still
Mhm.
needs a problem to solve. And so
Right.
the MS is going to become my new problem that I can solve endlessly for the rest of my life, because it's chronic and it's progressive, as the doctors are telling me. So this is going to be my new companion that I'm going to fight against, manage, and problem solve forever. And once I started to understand that about myself, you can now pull back a little bit and quiet that ego part of yourself and just say, thank you for helping me. But I don't need you anymore because the world is safe the way it is and you don't need to manage anymore.
Right.
And this is when we were talking about that word perfect, because it goes two ways, right? That we are perfect as we are, but we're not trying to achieve perfection or perfectionism. Because we're going to just be okay with wherever we are. And that means even if life is a little messy, even if we're in pain today, even if something's happening, we're just going to acknowledge it. We're going to be with it and be okay with if we're not perfect. And I think even with the MS, that's the boundary there too, is I think I needed to learn how to say, I can say no to people without my body having to say no for me. Because when we're mentally strong, we don't want to say that we can't do more. So I feel like my body maybe spoke where when my mind wouldn't speak. And when my body said, well, I'll make you sit on the couch and you can't do anything. And now people can't ask you for more. People can't expect anything of you because poor you, you're so sick now. Everyone will just leave you alone. And it's like, well, maybe if I had to set the boundaries better, maybe my body wouldn't have to speak on my behalf.
That is quite an awareness to gain that not very many people are able to see, because our as women, our masculine energy has been programmed, especially over the last like 70 years, like from the 40s to 50s, has really been programmed that we can do everything that men can do. Right. And that really plays into that masculine energy of, I have to do everything. I can do everything. But then we're not listening to our bodies, and our bodies are saying, wait a minute, we're not designed to do everything.
And I know that because you do energy work as well, so this might be meaningful for you, and I'll explain it a little bit maybe for your listeners if they don't know, but our subconscious or our female side is generally related to the right side of the brain, which instead of that male side, which is linear, language, analytic, problem solving, it's more fluid, it's the space between things, it's the relationships, it's the connections, that side of us. That when this relapse happened to me, it was the left side of my body that went numb. And in our brain, the right side at our brainstem switches and energetically becomes the left side of our body. So as this relapse happened, it was my left side that went completely numb. And to me, I thought right there, okay, it's mirroring something again in me, which is saying, because I was a single mom for a lot of years, so I was the breadwinner, and I was trying to do it all. And that what you're saying, this unrealistic expectation that I can be every single role to everybody all the time without a huge cost to myself, and without also this underlying thing that I can't be good at all of these things when I'm spreading myself so thin. So I'm not getting promoted at work because I'm going to daycare all the time, but I'm also sending my kids to school sick when they should stay home because I'm pressured for my job. It's so much pressure on me, and my body eventually said no. And what came up for me was all this left side, and it made me think, okay, I need to tap back in to this intuitive side, to this compassionate side, to this thing that is in relationship and is in wholeness, and it's not a to-do list anymore. I'm supposed to just be with myself instead of doing all of these things.
Yeah. And how difficult was that for you?
Well, it's really difficult because I'm an A-type personality, and I was always an overachiever. And I think that's also part of this whole underlying limiting beliefs, is that if you feel that you're not seen by anybody, I felt like as long as I was always achieving or doing something, that I had value and worth. And so I could never enjoy any of the moments and the accomplishments, because as soon as I did it, I was always like, well, I'll be happy around the next corner, the next degree, the next accomplishment, the next whatever it is I was striving for. But I was never just okay with where I was. And so I feel like this is when I think now of my MS as like a gift that was given to me. Having that amount of time just with myself was honestly what monks and what people pay to go to retreats for 3 months, and like people pay to do this thing, and I just got it given to me and just said, well, here, just slow down. And I'm trying to make light of some things that are a little bit dark too, but I'm so neurotic about my house being clean and perfect as part of my image.
Right.
And as soon as I was really sick, I couldn't see if things were, because my vision was so impaired, I couldn't see how dirty things were around me. And so my partner and my children, who would never care about keeping the house as clean as I would, they helped, they tried to clean up, but it wasn't
Right.
really the job I would have done. As soon as my vision started getting better, all of them at different times said to me, I think we liked you better when you couldn't see, because as soon as you could see that there was dust bunnies in the corner, all of a sudden you started trying to like push to have everything perfect again. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to slow down again, because even as I'm getting better, if I continue to be the person that created the sickness, I'm going to continue to be sick. So even though it's hard to admit, whatever parts of myself I had to really think about, is this really serving me, or the people around me? Because during that relapse, all of them said in some way, even though they wanted me to be better, that I was more present, that I
Yeah.
spent more time with them. And even my mother felt more needed because she came back into the fold because she had to take care of me. And so
Hmm.
it benefited all of us in different ways. Um, Even though it was a difficult situation. And I think I would leave that with your listeners too. I know when you're in the moment and it's really dark, it's hard sometimes to see, but you will find something beautiful even out. Like, it has to rain in order for there to be a rainbow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You have to go through some dark periods in order to understand what the light is, right? You have to go through the uncomfortable stuff to understand what comfortable looks like.
And to have
And
gratitude for it too, because
absolutely,
even small
that,
things, like for me putting my pants on and my socks on in the morning now, it's very meaningful for me. It never goes unnoticed. Me
yeah,
being able to carry a hot cup of coffee to the couch and then sit down. Those small little things, like I never noticed those ever in my life before. I never would have thought to slow down,
hmm,
smell the coffee, be grateful for
yeah,
anything in my life. And now that I've struggled so much with basic things, everything is amazing to me. I'm like
yeah,
inspired, and it's all in awe again. And it also gave me this passion. I would still be in my corporate job, living with low level anxiety and discontent, but never in enough pain to move to something more meaningful and beautiful, because I
hmm,
would have just been okay to just be there kind of numb and on autopilot forever. The MS really pushed me in an entirely new direction and to a new heights, and aligned me on a path that for me, I'm way happier now than I ever
hmm,
would have been if I hadn't had this experience.
right. Well, I'm sure that it taught you things about yourself that you probably never would have discovered had you not been forced to slow down. Like how much you would love yoga or energy work, or it wouldn't have brought those kinds of things into your life that were just life altering for you.
Yeah, and I think even for everybody, it's about like what we reframe it with. So I know that in the past, I mean, as a child, there's not really much you can do because you're under the care of adults. And so when trauma happens to you, it's unfortunate that at that time you're going to have a lot of things to unpack later in life and to
Mhm.
like learn new patterns and let go of things. But I feel like even later in my life, when I had this abusive marriage later, I still always very much lived it in victimhood, where I felt like he did this to me and that
Mhm.
everything was wrong. I even used to blame him for my MS, because I used to think, well, if you didn't stress me out and you didn't do this to me all the
Right.
time, then I probably wouldn't have gotten sick.
Yeah.
Right. And even though I didn't verbally express that to him, in my heart and in my mind, even after I was divorced for years, I really attributed all the bad things that happened to me to him. But I
Hmm.
think that getting this MS again gave me another, like, and I don't mean the MS in general, but this relapse most
Right.
recently,
Right.
that it gave
Right.
me another opportunity to really look at agency over victimhood. Because regardless of what life has done to me, I'm the one that's going to have to pick myself back up and move forward again. So how am I going to reframe my story this time? And I was saying that to myself right in the beginning, because one thing is, as you go through life and hopefully we gain lessons, it's not that we ever get perfect, but when we
Hmm.
get thrown off, hopefully we get back to center quicker. Like we course correct a little
Right.
quicker than we did in previous,
Right.
incarnations of the same experience. So this time around, I thought to myself right away, okay, you're obviously, there's something here that you need to do over again differently, and how are you going to reframe it? And I thought to myself right away, Instead of telling anybody that I'm a victim for this MS, I'm going to write a beautiful comeback story, because that's the story I'm going to tell this time about triumph and like and coming back from this hard situation. And I'm going to draw on all of the resources that I gained over the years through all of the other struggles, and I'm going to be able to use them now to really propel myself into something beautiful, through my suffering.
That's beautiful. Can you give an example of reframing your story for the listeners that aren't quite sure how to put that into play?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to start with the one that seems really basic, but it's actually, I think, again, just like meditation foundational, is gratitude. So
Hmm.
I think that we all habitually think more negative because it's better for our survival.
Hmm.
So, being happy isn't a requirement of life, but getting away from predators or avoiding things would be,
Right.
fundamental to our survival. So we have a tendency to get in negative loops and to get in negative thought patterns. And I remember that when I first switched to gratitude, and it was a moment, and I remember choosing it because, like all things, it is a choice. We just energetically, things can shift quickly. The body takes time because it lives in a 3D reality, but energetically and emotionally, we can just change our story instant. And I remember
Hmm.
laying on the floor and thinking, no, you're not going to tell yourself anymore and remind yourself about the pain or about all the things you can't do. So it's no longer going to be, I can't run, I can't dance, I can't do yoga anymore, I can't do these things. You're going to turn it around to look at all the things that you can do and that you do have. And
Right.
once I started laying there and thinking about, I'm grateful that I can breathe. I'm grateful that I have a floor to lay on. I'm grateful that the temperature is comfortable in the room right now. I'm grateful that my dog is laying beside me. And even right now, as I do this exercise, I could go on endlessly about all
Yeah.
the things. And that instant little reframe and that little shift in your mind seems so inconsequential, but it is so transformative. And
Yeah.
it's free and it's easy, and you can do it all throughout the day, all the time. And in the beginning, maybe integrating it at specific moments so you remember. Like for me, my family, we do it at dinner every night, but I do it all day. And I get
Right.
to myself every time I start to go negative, I instantaneously will say to myself, even in this moment, what do you have to be grateful for? And once you start answering that, it shifts you energetically. And because if we're looking at healing our body, like I just mentioned, it is in a biochemistry world still, even though it's governed by the information, the emotions,
Hmm.
the mindset, it still isn't a 3D reality. And when we think negative, then we bathe our bodies and our cell in biochemistry of stress hormones and of negative things. And it's constantly signaling to your body that it's not safe, that it can't rest, it can't digest, it can't build an immune system. And certainly your brain isn't going to prioritize feeling happy and the energy it takes to be happy if it's always in survival mode and saying, but I'm not safe, it's not okay.
Yeah.
But when you flip the switch and you just switch to gratitude, and even small things like, I know it seems again superficial, but just putting on your favorite music throughout the day. So if you're unloading the dishwasher, instead of doing it begrudgingly because why didn't the kids do it? Oh, my husband should be doing it. Like, why is it my turn again? Just accept that you're doing it. Put some
Right.
music on, be happy about it, because if you're trying to heal yourself at the end of the day, you're not really controlling the content of what's happening to you. You're controlling the context. What meaning
Right.
are you giving the moment right
Yeah.
now? And you can do things happily or you can do things angrily. And so I think, unless you have a situation in your life that really needs some attention and change, in which case, if you're having constant negative emotions, maybe that's a signal that you need to change something outwardly in your environment. And if that is a relationship, a job, then maybe make the changes to switch your situation. But otherwise, if it's something that you're not willing to actually modify in your life, then just stop worrying about it so much and just whistle while you work and just be kind of happy about things.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell my clients on occasion that when we talk about gratitude is look at your kitchen sink. Are there dishes in there? Yes. Are you grateful for there being dishes? No. Well, why not? You have dishes to eat on. Like you could be eating from your hand like a lot of other people might have to do, right? Is finding that gratitude in all of the mundane things as well, the things that we do without really thinking about it. It's
You're
really
absolutely
coming
right.
into the now, really coming into the now and being in the moment and be like, I am grateful for every single thing that's happening in this second.
And in the moment right now, you are safe. You
Yeah.
are okay. Like if you're listening to us speak right now, then it means that you're somewhere where an emergency is not happening, where even if your body, like when I was sick with the MS, you're still safe sitting on a couch or in a chair, you're
Right.
supported, you're safe. So stop putting yourself into the past or into the future. And, you know, when you were just talking about even the mundane things and switching things, it came to me again another way to reframe. And this one is a very concrete way that happened is with my MS, I followed, because even though I do energy work at a higher level, I do understand we're still a physical body. So I still
Right.
do diet and supplement and exercise and all the other things because that is important too. And so I gave up, radically shifted my diet. So no more gluten, no more dairy, no more seed oils, no more sugar, which means I can't eat out. I have to be that pain in the butt person at the restaurant that's asking, "Oh, what did they cook this with? And is this in it?"
Mhm.
And you know, and then feeling very angry about that in the beginning. And also then angry that nobody in my family switched their diet. Like, how dare
Yeah.
they eat the ice cream in front of me if
Yeah.
I
I've
can't eat
been
the ice
there.
cream? Right? And I was so
Yeah.
mad about it. And then I was thinking to myself, well, how am I going to digest this food if I can't digest the emotions that go with it?
Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
angry while I'm eating. And then I thought, reframe this. I'm like, I am so privileged that I can afford to buy food from an organic farmer that pasture raised the meat and that I can afford supplements and that I have enough time in my life that I can cook these intricate meals because it is hard and time consuming to cook
hmm
healthy, but that I can make my bone broth during the day while working at home. And I'm
Right.
like, that is such a privilege. And there are so many other people with MS or other diseases or anything else in the world right now that would die to be in my position. And how dare I then be so ungrateful and hateful about all of these things that I have in front of me? And then even just the fact that I know to eat well, or that I
Yeah.
read that information, or that I've done this action, or I've done any of these things, like all of the things to be grateful for in that moment. And then it really shifts it because now as I'm eating this food, I feel blessed now while I'm eating. And that food is going to assimilate so much better in my body under a feeling of blessing. And also my family is going to be more pleasant around me because I'm not going to be scowling at them while they have a different dinner than me. So just energy, like everything all around just gets
Right.
better just by me shifting the way I viewed something. The context did not change. The
Right.
situation is exactly the same, but how I viewed everything made all the difference.
Yeah. Healing is what I the one thing I got from reading your book and is the hold on, let me pull up the title. Unlearn dis-ease, relearn well-being is the relationship between yourself and the healing that you want to do and what steps that you can take to allow your body to heal the way it's meant to. Because our bodies are incredibly smart and they want to work well for us. They want to allow us to jump and skip and dance and laugh and all these good things. But when we're leading a, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but we live emotionally unhealthy lives because we are learning from people who are not emotionally healthy themselves. And so when we become adults and we realize that, oh, you know what, I went through some stuff when I was younger. I couldn't deal with it because I wasn't taught how to deal with it. But now you've gained this new awareness and you can now take responsibility for your own healing, which is what you've done. And you built such a beautiful relationship between your inner self, your body, and your healing. And that's got to be very empowering.
It is. This is agency, and this is something that, I mean, I know that we live in a society now of quick fixes, and in our allopathic Western medicine model, this is what people want. They want to go to the doctor and just say, give me a pill. I'll give all my authority to you to do the research, to understand everything, and you just tell me what to do. I'll take this pill, I'll go home. And then I'm going to do nothing after that.
Right.
And, you know, that is, you know, giving your power and autonomy away to somebody else. And I mean, here's another example I like to give too. And I would tell this to my kids whenever they thought things were hard and they were trying to blame each other, other people. If you're crossing the crosswalk and you point your finger, you press the button, you do everything right, you're being safe, you're walking within the lines, and a driver's on their phone and they're drunk and they hit you, and you're in the hospital now, and you can spend the next year pointing the finger and going, well, I'm going to sue you. It's your fault. You did this to me. You were the one that was driving. You were drunk. You did this, and I'm right. I did all the right things, and this is your fault. And whether that person takes accountability, whether they don't, doesn't matter what they do. At the end of the day, if you want to learn how to walk again, you're going to be the one that gets up every day and does the physio and the rehab and puts the effort in, because nobody else can do the hard work for you that you need to do. And so it is a scary and a liberating place to be in, to know that you are responsible for what's going on in your life. And if you don't like the way that things look in your environment, know that you attracted that, you accepted that, you created it, you brought that into your life. And if you don't like it, then start thinking and being different, and hopefully you'll attract something else. And a lot of that comes with the responsibility of, like, we make, Buddha said it best, right? We make the world with our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if we know that, and again, I don't want that to come off, especially depending on where people are in their healing journey. This is not blaming you for your disease, because clearly nobody says in their mind, I think I would like to wake up tomorrow and have cancer.
Right.
Because, but as we unpack it and we start to learn these things, we have to then see that there are secondary gains sometimes.
Yeah.
So what is it that you benefited? Because no behavior, no animal, nothing in the living universe will do a behavior unless there's a benefit to them to do it. So if we're doing something over and over and creating a result, then somewhere there we are getting a benefit from that decision, that choice, that behavior. Yeah. And once we start to understand what those secondary gains are, then it gives us an opportunity not to blame ourselves, not to shame ourselves, not to give another layer of negative emotions, which is not going to be conducive to healing. It gives us an opportunity to have awareness, to shine light onto it, so that we can make different choices going forward. It's supposed to give us a feeling of agency, not of shame.
I love that. I love that. Dayna, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. Make sure you guys go to Amazon and get her book, Unlearn Disease, Relearn Wellbeing. Is there anything else that you want the listeners to know or to hear that we did not discuss?
I just like to leave everybody always with this message of hope, because no matter how dark it is in those moments, the universe is not doing this to you, it's for you. And there is always a greater meaning in it. And I think that when we start to accept ourselves and meet ourselves where we're at, it doesn't always mean that we're going to reach perfection or total health. Or like, my health is not now like it used to be before this relapse. And one day, hopefully it might be. But if it's not, if it gets worse, if it gets better, if it stays the same, either way, I'm okay. Because I've learned that I'm just okay. And you're okay too. Wherever you are right now, you are okay. And, as long as you keep moving towards this centeredness and this feeling of safety and acceptance of yourself, that will create the conditions that are possible to heal, if healing is what is meant to be for you. But whatever it is in your journey, it was meant for you. Mm-hmm. And this is your life story. So instead of pushing against it all of the time, just be with yourself, be okay with yourself, love yourself, give yourself the same kind of compassion that you would give to a child or to an animal or to anybody else.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful thoughts. And where can they find you?
So I have a website, energyovermatter.com, where I offer all kinds of services. If you're in my area, we do public sound baths and some group sessions. For those of you that aren't local to me, there's also a free healing circle that I hold once a month, and that's just anybody's welcome to that, where we do like energy healing, some bioenergetic coaching, sound healing. It's always different every time. And then you can also find me on all the regular socials under Energy Over Matter.
Beautiful. Dayna, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I hope today's episode brought you inspiration, joy, and a spark of empowerment. Remember, transformation is an incredible journey, and every single step you take towards self-care and healing brings you closer to the life you truly desire. If this episode uplifted you, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us to share this journey of hope, resilience, and joy with many listeners. For more tips, support, and inspiration, come and visit us at designyourexistence.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep shining brightly. You are absolutely worth every bit of love and care you give to yourself. Take care, stay joyful, and be well.